As of this recording, in January of 2019, Satisfactory is in a limited alpha release. The developer behind the game, Coffee Stain Studios, has previously released such hits as Goat Simulator and Deep Rock Galactic. So how did you hear about Satisfactory? If you've played Factorio, the two games are similar. Both involve using conveyor belts and a bunch of different type of factories to produce ever more advanced goods. If you enjoy survival games, then Satisfactory kind of fits that model. You climb up a tech tree, building ever more complicated machine, and eventually, well, survive, I guess. Yet Satisfactory isn't a survival game. There's no aliens on the planet trying to eat your brains, or to keep you from polluting their planet. Satisfactory is strictly a builder. The biggest difference is that Factorio is a tiled 2D game, while Satisfactory is 3D. It might seem like mostly a matter of presentation, but it's actually at the heart of what Satisfactory is as a game. Let's look at Factorio. Most of the players that play Factorio online have the difficulty cranked up, one way or another, as far as the difficulty can go. They rush to get the best technology as fast as possible. They play in death worlds where being killed by biters is a very strong and serious threat. One variant that I enjoyed a lot pits two teams against each other, where each team was on an isolated bit of land and had to fight against NPC enemies, that is, biters. In all cases, the survival knob was turned up to 11. Yet that's not satisfactory. Where's the threat? What's the restriction? We have yet to see where the developers will put the antagonist, as there's always one in the game. Is it just time? Are you racing to get off the planet, to build sufficient technology so that you can sit on the veranda and drink lemonade, letting the factory tend to your other needs? We don't yet know. I am reminded a bit of Empyrean, which is a base, vehicle, and space exploration game where you do have to fight off some baddies, but ultimately the goal is to get off the planet, explore other planets, and eventually escape to other stars. There's a survival aspect to it, in that there are enemy NPCs, but those enemies don't tend to be very threatening. For the most part, it's a base building game. Another difference is optimization, as a player goal. Because Factorio is played on a 2D tiled map, it's very easy to pursue optimization strategies for a great many things, even to the point of having perfectly optimal arrangements of, well, whatever, belts, factories, groups of factories, and whatnot. Optimization is, I think, a big part of the fun of Factorio, and that's enabled by its 2D map. Yet Satisfactory is 3D. Optimization will still be possible, but there's two big changes. One is that you're no longer restricted to tiles, so it will be hard to find a perfect arrangement, in many cases because you'll be constrained by nearby geography, hills, and whatnot. Also, Satisfactory goes up. Instead of having to build outwards, you can build up into the sky. This definitely complicates things, and for one, I think will be a huge part of gameplay, figuring out how to make some fancy arrangement work better or faster by stacking bits and pieces on top of each other. Not much gameplay has been released yet, though. The game is only in closed alpha, which means that only a limited number of players have been given keys to play an early build of the game. They've also put an NDA in place, which means that anyone playing the alpha can't stream gameplay, or upload footage to YouTube, or talk about what they've seen. So in other words, there's no public info on the game yet, other than what's come directly from the devs. Just so you know, no, I'm not yet in the alpha myself. Worry not too much. The gameplay in this alpha is the early part anyway. The developers have stated that they're looking for feedback on the systems that they have working right now, and the endgame is still being figured out, so there's no telling where it will go. The basic mechanics are plain. You run around a 3D world, picking up plants and rocks and maybe lumber with your hands, and then using a Game Boy type controller, and here I mean in-game, i.e. the character in the game carries this console gizmo around. Anyway, you use it to summon various buildings, including drills, conveyor belts, smelters, sheet makers, hole punches, card files, and, well, okay, they actually haven't listed all of the sorts of buildings you can make. I reckon it'll follow the Factorio model, though. Mine ore from the earth, refine it into ingots, press those ingots into bits and pieces, like gears and rods and plates, and then combine those into machines, ultimately combining complex machines into more complex machines. The evolution of ever more complex objects follows a basic formula that's been around since early gaming. Heck, even old RTS games like Command & Conquer and StarCraft did this. Climb a tech tree, making ever more complex toys. I want to quote directly from the game's website here. Its directions include how to make one complex part out of two slightly less complex parts, which previously were even less complex parts, but we're currently skipping that step because it is easier. Yet without an opponent to fight against, I'm not sure what the restrictions will be. Do you have a time limit? Are there limited resources, such that you might run out of iron before you finish your mission? And what is that mission anyway? Game designers in general, and here I don't mean Coffee Stain, I mean like Raph, Koster, and Hizoke, have said, well, they've said many things, some of which are stupid and some of which I disagree with, but one thing that I agree with is that good gameplay comes from forcing the player to make interesting, meaningful choices. That good gameplay from making decisions in the face of scarcity. What that means is I'm looking for some kind of restraint. Other than time, what's to keep me from building the ultimate base? Is Satisfactory just a sandbox, or am I competing against some agent? I don't really want to keep going back to Factorio, but it's one of the top 5 games on Steam, and it's been played by a huge number of people. Many people do play Factorio as a kind of sandbox base building game, yet I think far more prefer playing in a game where the aliens threaten to eat your brain, and you've got to play well and play fast to keep that from happening. I'm hoping there's something like that in Satisfactory and that the devs will tell us soon. Maybe one of you might have heard something, or maybe you have an idea, or just something you'd like to see, and if so, let me know in the comments. What do you think the opposition will be in Satisfactory? And while you're down there, give this video a like if you've made it this far. And if you want to know more about Satisfactory, please subscribe. YouTube beats me less often when viewers subscribe. Because I can tell you the graphics look great, and the animation is incredible, and the sense of humor from the devs is very much appreciated. I'm definitely watching this game, and hopefully we'll get more details soon. In the meanwhile, suggest checking out their YouTube channel. The link is in the description. With any luck, they'll open alpha, or let me into the closed alpha and then remove the NDA restrictions, and I'll get you more video. I'll see you next time.